You know, when I heard that the theme for this session was mission accomplished, I confess that my reaction was, what mission have I accomplished? I thought, I don't feel like I'm on a mission. Certainly not a single mission anyway. In fact, I just completed, as you heard, an appointment at the United Nations, a job I never dreamed of having when I was in high school, and not a place I ever thought I would work, even as recently as a couple of years ago. The job wasn't, in the traditional sense, any part of my mission. And the idea that a mission is accomplished, that was another idea that gave me pause. You get so busy living life that sometimes it's hard to stand back and take stock of the life you're living. But today's talk gives me the opportunity to reflect on some things I've done with the theme of mission accomplished and goal 5 in mind. Schools of the Sacred Heart commit themselves to educate to personal growth in an atmosphere of wise freedom. Among the subpoints under goal 5 is that all members of the school community take personal responsibility for balancing their lives and for the health and well-being, and that students grow in self-knowledge and develop self-confidence as they learn to deal realistically with their gifts and limitations. I think balance in life is one of those great overused sayings. Everyone talks about life-work balance, but balance isn't static. It's back and forth, a series of constant adjustments, a little more here, a little less there. I don't think you ever quite reach a balance in life. What you do is try to take personal responsibility for the components of that balance. You decide what your little more here is, what your little there is. You decide what you give up on and what you double down on. Over time, you recognize your strengths and your limitations, and you use that knowledge to decide how to invest your time. You also develop an ability to build from one experience to the next. You evolve as someone taking personal responsibility for the choices you make and your decisions about how you spend your time. I've been very fortunate to have access to opportunities that allowed me to have some very special experiences. I worked in the White House and, as I mentioned, at the United Nations. But those things came after I developed a career as a lawyer in Washington and had 4 children. So let me go back and set the stage a little bit. I moved to Washington after college because I had gotten a job working for the House Banking Committee. After a few years of working on Capitol Hill, I went to Georgetown Law School, and after graduating there, I went to work at a large law firm doing civil litigation. Now, at this time, I was not married, had no kids, worked long hours, and spent a lot of time taking depositions in Houston and Oklahoma City. Although I was in a great firm, after a couple of years, I knew that I did not want to really stay at a big firm doing the kind of work I was doing. I did not feel like I was contributing to the world or learning anything I wanted to learn. So I changed jobs, I took a pay cut, my parents thought I had lost my mind, and I went to a small DC-based firm that did a lot of interesting government investigations work. One day the firm was approached to represent then U.S. Senator Alan Cranston, who was being investigated by the Senate in connection with a matter that would be known as the Keating Five. The case involved 5 senators who were accused of improperly using their influence to help a campaign contributor. I was still a junior lawyer, but asked to be assigned to the case, citing my pre-law school stint on Capitol Hill. Soon I was in the middle of the biggest Washington scandal in years, newspaper articles, hearings on television, and so on. I worked incredibly long hours, but I learned a lot, and it was exciting. And after working on that case, I developed a specialty in dealing with issues involving congressional investigations, government ethics, and political campaigns. These opportunities, the Hill job and the Keating Five case, got me in line to have a career in the private practice of law for over 20 years. But none of that would have happened without me making some pretty deliberate decisions about how I wanted to invest my time. I didn't think much about balance or limitations during this first part of my career. And then I started having kids. I found myself questioning my assumptions about what it meant to be a successful lawyer. And when I looked around, all of the successful lawyers I saw doing the kind of work I was doing were men or women without children. I decided that I wanted to work part-time, but it took me 2 years to work up the courage to talk to my law firm about it. There were no part-time partners, and I was sure that my decision would be the end of my career. But it wasn't. I worked part-time at the firm for a number of years while my kids were young. There were ups and downs and unanticipated challenges along the way. But by forcing myself to speak out about working part-time and then working hard to implement a part-time schedule that still allowed me to take on challenging work assignments, I learned a lot about personal responsibility, about my strengths and limitations, and about how to affect change. My life's path changed pretty dramatically in 2008 for two very different reasons. As some of you may remember, our daughter Kate, who was in 8th grade at Stone Ridge at the time, was diagnosed with leukemia. The idea of balancing life tilted completely to spending our time getting her better. This unexpected and life-changing challenge caused me to think a lot about faith and how and where to spend my time. Having the Sacred Heart goals to guide us as we navigate these challenges made a huge difference. Kate recovered. She graduated from Stone Ridge in 2012 and is a healthy college junior today. Shortly after Kate got out of the hospital, I returned to work. But I realized how much my perspective had changed and that I wanted a different balance in my life and wanted to spend more time on community and public service. It was the summer of 2008, and I was asked to help the Obama campaign evaluate potential vice presidential candidates. Although I had been involved in similar efforts in prior presidential campaigns, this time I decided that I wanted to go further than simply working on campaigns. This volunteer work ultimately led to a job at the White House. I served as Deputy White House Counsel from 2011 to 2014. The White House Counsel's office is the President's internal law firm. The lawyers advise the President, First Lady, and White House staff on a range of issues, from policy questions to the selection of judges to dealing with congressional oversight and Supreme Court cases. I suppose no one ever really feels prepared for these kinds of jobs. There's always a little bit of feeling, how did I get here? But I think I was more ready than I would have been earlier in life. I think I have learned a great deal, not only from my law practice, but also from working through Kate's illness and the experience of having 4 kids. I know that I brought a different perspective to the job than I would have if I had not just been through the crisis of Kate's illness. I had a personal sense of what it was like to face a crisis. I didn't sweat the details the way I would have earlier in my career. One of the best things about working in the White House is the opportunity to work with accomplished people. While there are many such people throughout the government, I want to talk to you briefly about 3 very special women, each of whom has confronted challenges and made very deliberate decisions about how to spend their time. One of the people I had the opportunity to work with at the White House was the First Lady. She went to Princeton to law school, but decided to leave law practice to work at the University of Chicago. As First Lady, she has built upon her personal experience trying to improve her family's eating habits to promote health and exercise and nutrition. I think she's a wonderful role model for women and girls about how to bring your true self with you to work. I also had the opportunity to work with Justice Sotomayor in connection with her Supreme Court nomination. As you may know, she is the first Hispanic Supreme Court justice. She grew up in very modest circumstances in the Bronx, New York, and got a scholarship to Princeton. She wrote a book a couple of years ago in which she described how unprepared she felt when she arrived at Princeton and how hard she worked to improve her writing. She went on to have extraordinary success as a lawyer and judge, but remains committed to sharing her story and encouraging young people to follow their dreams. Despite her busy schedule, she still makes time for mentoring events for young women. Another woman of great accomplishment is our UN Ambassador, Samantha Power. Ambassador Power began her career as a reporter, covering the Yugoslav wars. She researched and wrote a prize-winning book about genocide and went from writing about policymakers to becoming one. So here she is today, a woman born in Ireland who came to the U.S. as a child and is now serving as the U.S. Ambassador, all driven by her sense of passion for justice and peace. My experience as a working mother and the challenge of having a sick child made me want to work on gender issues when I was at the White House. President Obama established the White House Council on Women and Girls during his first term, and last summer the council sponsored a major forum on working families in the 21st century. The conference brought together national experts on issues such as pay equity and family leave to talk about how the government and private companies can implement policies that help women and working families balance their work and personal responsibilities. Gender equity issues are also front and center at the UN. I spoke last fall to the UN about our country's commitment to empowering women. The 59th session of the UN's Commission on the Status of Women wrapped up yesterday. The Commission is reviewing progress made over the last 20 years on gender equity and the empowerment of women, and outlining areas for improvement and focus over the next several years. These are difficult and important issues for you to think about and work on as you continue with your education and begin your careers. As you make choices about your education and your career and how to balance those things with family and community and the rest of your life, I want you to keep in mind what I think I have learned from everything I've just described to you, and that is balance for its own sake is not a goal. Having impact is the goal. Don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to push for change. And don't be afraid to take advantage of opportunities that come your way. Thank you.